Welcome. In this video, we will guide you through the conversion from a stuffing box mechanical seal to a behind the rotor seal in Viking pumps with the U+ bracket. This video applies to these pump models. Before you begin, please consult the appropriate technical service manual for safety information. A copy of the latest revision can be found on our website at vikingpump.com. To begin, remove the stainless steel window guards from the bracket. Next, bend up the tang of the lock washer. Place a brass or hardwood bar into the port opening to keep the pump from turning. Loosen and remove the lock nut. Remove and discard the lock washer. Loosen the bearing housing set screws. Loosen and remove the bearing housing. Remove the bearing spacer collar. The collar may have come out with the bearing housing. Remove the half-round rings. Loosen and remove the seal holder lock nuts. Remove the seal holder, seal seat, and seal gasket. Remove the T-bolts. Remove the seal access hole plug to reveal the seal set screws. Loosen each of the seal rotary member set screws. Carefully shift the rotary member down the pump shaft so it can be removed. Remove any suckback or flush lines and install plugs. Loosen and remove the head cap screws. Remove the head by tilting it backward to prevent the idler from falling off the idler pin. Remove and discard the head gasket. Remove the rotor shaft. A soft-headed hammer may be used to tap on the end of the shaft to aid with removal. Loosen and remove the casing cap screws and remove the casing. Remove and discard the bracket gasket. Remove the plug on the opposite side of the open seal access hole. At this point, the bushing will need to be removed and a new bushing installed in the behind the rotor seal position. Using a hydraulic press, carefully press out the old bushing. When installing, use care to avoid breaking or damaging the carbon graphite bushing. Bushings with lubrication grooves should be installed with the groove at the 12 o'clock position and the notches facing the head end of the pump at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. Lubricate the bushing and ensure it is started straight. Bushings in the behind the rotor seal configuration need to be pressed to the appropriate depth. Please refer to the technical service manual to confirm proper bushing depth for your pump size. Lubricate and place the bracket lip seal with the spring side down toward the casing end of the pump. Using a flat press fixture, fully press in the lip seal. Before reassembly, ensure the casing, bracket, head, idler pin, idler, and rotor shaft are free of any debris or wear. Replace any worn components. Using thread sealant, install a grease zerk on one side of the bracket. Use an adapter fitting if needed. On the opposite side, install a grease relief fitting. Use an adapter fitting if needed. Install the bracket gasket. Apply appropriate gasket sealant to the bracket and ensure even coverage on both sides of the gasket. Install the casing. Install the seal installation sleeve onto the shaft. Lubricate the shaft and install the seal rotary member until it makes contact with the back of the rotor. Tighten each set screw until they just make contact with the shaft, then fully tighten the set screws. Remove the seal clips to engage the seal. Turn the pump up onto the bracket to aid with seal seat installation. First, install the seal spacer. Next, install the seal seat with the pins down and aligned with the grooves in the bushing. Carefully push the seal until it is fully seated against the seal spacer. Before installing the rotor shaft, tape the threads at the end of the shaft to prevent damage to the lip seal in the bracket. Lubricate and install the rotor shaft. Take care not to damage the seal seat or lip seal during installation. Remove the tape and seal installation sleeve. Install the half-round rings. Install the bearing spacer collar over the half-round rings. Since the seal is engaged in pushing the rotor shaft out of the pump, the bearing housing will need to be installed to aid with head installation. Install the lock washer by aligning the tab through the slot on the shaft. Install the lock nut. Fully tighten the lock nut. Loosen the bearing housing to open the clearance and pull the rotor into the casing. Use care when turning the bearing housing. Stop if you encounter resistance. Turning too far may overcompress and damage the seal. Install the head gasket. Apply appropriate gasket sealant to the head and ensure even coverage on both sides of the gasket. Install the idler onto the idler pin. Install the head. Ensure that the relief valve is oriented toward the suction port. Place a brass or hardwood bar into the port opening to keep the pump from turning. Torque the lock nut to the appropriate torque setting. This setting can be found in the technical service manual. Bend a tang of the lock washer into a slot of the lock nut. If no tang aligns, continue to tighten the lock nut until one does. Failure to tighten the lock nut or engage the lock washer tab could result in early bearing failure and cause damage to the rest of the pump. Now set the end clearance. The end clearance setting can be found in the technical service manual. Loosen the bearing housing and insert the appropriate feeler gauge between the rotor face and idler bushing. Tighten the bearing housing until there is a slight drag when moving the feeler gauge between the face of the rotor and idler bushing. Once end clearance is set, tighten the two set screws in the face of the bearing housing. Turn the shaft to ensure the pump turns freely. Next, grease the bracket with application-appropriate grease. Rotate the shaft while greasing and continue to fill until grease is released through the pressure relief fitting. Reinstall the window guards. Ensure that the retaining washer is placed between the guard and bracket faces. Finally, grease the bearing housing until grease begins to appear around the lock washer. Your pump has now been converted from a stuffing box component mechanical seal to a behind the rotor seal and is ready to be put back into service. For more information or to view other service videos, please visit our website at vikingpump.com.